Teachers of Reddit, what's the funniest answer you have come across while grading papers? A third grader's homework was to define vocab words, and one of them was parent. His definition, adults who own you. I used to mark chemistry papers for a university. There was a question, the content I can't recall, but an essay-style answer was required. Anyway, this one student had a complete mind blank, and instead wrote this elaborate story about a lonely dragon who could not make friends. So lots of different animals would take pity on him and try to be his friend, but in his excitement he would set them on fire. This went on for 3 or 4 sides, stopped mid-sentence. There was a line break, and they started the correct essay. To this day I wonder if the dragon ever made any friends without accidentally killing them. Poor guy. Did you give him full credit for how he answered this, or did you subtract points? They would have got the score that the essay deserved. The story has no impact on the marking at all. List 3 different gases: air, farts, gravity. Ah yes, gravity, the heaviest of gases. On a thermodynamics test, the students had to define adiabatic. One student answered, someone who needs insulin. I think I gave them half credit. Everyone needs insulin, diabetics just can't produce their own. A Japanese quiz where a student wrote, I don't know, I am sorry, I didn't study, dishonor on my family and my cow. She drew the Cetus cow on the bottom of the page. She was not Chinese, for the record. Edit, the dishonor on your family and cow thing is a Mulan reference, which is Chinese. Nothing to do with the quiz or class itself. There was also an assignment, where the numbers were written in Japanese. You had to write it in Arabic numbers. Example, 1, 2, 3. This fucker wrote in Roman numerals. I left, and then I wanted to stab him. 2nd grade, write a journal about what you did this weekend. Student consistently added more and more elaborate drinking games that his dad and mom played at home with their friends. Had a student turn in some code with profanity in the comments. In their defense, or deserves that kind of response. I told them officially, I have to give them a talk about professionalism, and unofficially my thesis has far worse in it. Not a teacher, but when I was taking my driver's test, this had been written under a question. How much is the fine for fleeing an officer? Answer, nothing, if you are fast. I assume you are aware of the old internet classic, world history as told through student bloopers. Some pretty hilarious mistakes in there. Delegates from the original 13 states formed the Contented Congress. Thomas Jefferson, a virgin, and Benjamin Franklin were the singers of the Declaration of Independence. Franklin had gone to Boston carrying all his clothes in his pocket, and a loaf of bread under each arm. He invented electricity by rubbing cats backwards and declared, a horse divided against itself cannot stand. Franklin died in 1790, and is still dead. Beethoven wrote music even though he was deaf. He was so deaf he wrote loud music. He took long walks in the forest even, when everyone was calling for him. Beethoven expired in 1827 and later died for this. These are great. The Beethoven bit reminds me of one of my favorite lines in there. Bach was the most famous composer in the world, and so was Handel. Handel was half German, half Italian and half English. He was very large. The whole thing is great. Some of my other favorites are a bit more juvenile though. Sir Francis Drake circumcised the world with a 100-foot clipper. Cyrus McCormick invented the McCormick Raper, which did the work of 100 men. I prefer this gem. Solomon, one of David's sons, had 500 wives and 500 porcupines. Franklin died in 1790 and is still dead. I am dead. Gravity was invented by Isaac Walton. It is chiefly noticeable in the autumn, when the apples are flailing off the trees. Martin Luther was nailed to the church door at Wittenberg for selling papal indulgences. I am dead. He was born in a log cabin, which he built with his own hands. Lincoln's fetus building a log cabin actually would not surprise me. It's amazing he was born at all considering his mother died in infancy. Oh god, these are great. The irony of spelling illiterate wrong. Grading finals for an evolutionary bio course, and one of the questions was to discuss or list the development of a baby from fertilization to birth. The students were given 2 or 3 blank pages to go to town on. One student wound up doing a series of diary entries from the zygote's perspective. It was incredibly creative. They received full credit for being totally right. Also, another question was to discuss the evolutionary lineage from tree shrew to humans. The student blanked and drew a series of stick figures. I believe after much discussion, they received half a point for creativity. In an essay question, I asked music students to describe Bach's famous toccata and fugue in D minor. One student wrote that toccata is a musical composition for organ or other keyboard instruments, designed to exhibit the performer's touch and technique. And because Bach had the largest organ in Leipzig, Germany, he wanted people to touch it, to show their virtuosity on a full organ registration. All the stops pulled out. Not a teacher, but I was once visiting my buddy at college near the end of his semester. He had a physics final to take that morning, and I didn't want to sit in his dorm room alone with his roommate cause that would be awkward. So I decided to go with him to take the final. Since there were a couple hundred people, there I went unnoticed. Turns out my experience in carpentry did not help me with the advanced physics exam, so instead I decided to fill it out as best as I could, which came out in the form of a cartoon about Newton and his 3 laws. Hopefully it at least broke up the monotonous task of grading exams. I bet it did not. I had a student who brought a friend to a quiz. They actually tried to answer the questions, so I guess it was not as obvious, but they signed it Leon Tolstoy. I spent some wasted time trying to figure out who this student was and what mistake I made. Not quite an exam paper, but my mum works as a teaching assistant at a primary school, and she was marking some work from her extra literacy group. One of the questions was to write about something they would learn over the weekend. The best answer was from one boy who wrote, "I learnt that it's not a good idea to wake up my big brother in the morning. May the good Lord have mercy on your soul." Question: what are your opinions on sex before marriage? 16 marks. Answer: I would not buy a car before test driving it. My boyfriend was a teacher for a while, and I would help him check these workbooks they used. There was an assignment for a 4th grade class that asked if they or any of their friends had been discriminated against. One girl answered with, "No, because all my friends are white." Not a teacher, but I saw the question. How do you construct a door? And for the answer they drew a Minecraft crafting table with 6 blocks of wooden planks in it. In biology freshman year my teacher asked, "Where does meiosis occur?" My friend raised his hand and blurted out in the cunt, to which she replied, "I can't believe you just said that." And he is like, "Neither could I." Principal's office, it all happened so fast that nobody left until 10 minutes later. Still one of the funniest things I have ever experienced. Similar to that, I was in 8th grade health science class, and the teacher asked, "How are twins formed in the human body?" One kid shouted, "You shoot an extra load." Everyone, including the teacher, laughed. I am an aide for a 5th grade classroom. Every week the kids have to turn in geography worksheets. One of these asked if Illinois or Oklahoma was warmer and why. One of my brilliant 5th graders put down, "Illinois, because they have more people so it makes the state warmer." My mother is a primary school teacher, and she showed me how when they were doing an exercise that involved writing modernized versions of classic fairy tales. One child wrote Cinderella went downstairs. She had a bar of chocolate and some cock. Poor kid had meant to write Coke. Not a teacher, but in my freshman year biology class, we had to do independent research projects on any topic we wanted. One kid did his on masturbation and its effects on stress, and he went all out on graphs, Excel sheets, and diagrams, you name it, he stuck it on there. That kid jerked off so much in that month to the point where he said he used hand sanitizer as lube. After that day he was known as the masturbation specialist. This is my wife's story. She teaches French and Spanish. It was not a written answer, either. It was the speaking portion of a final exam. In her school, the student draws one of several randomized cards with a different situation to set up a short conversation. For this one, the card specified a bookstore. I don't speak French, so she gave me the English translation. "Teacher, can I help you?" Student, "I need to return this book." Teacher, "When did you buy it?" Student, "Tuesday of last week." Teacher, "How much did you pay for it?" Student, €15. Teacher, "Why do you want to return it?" Student, "I can't read." When she recovered from laughing, the student received full credit. A family member was teaching a science class, and one student wrote a paper with the title, "If the universe is expanding, why is my penis so small?" Thanks for watching. Share your story in the comment.